Verse 24, I remember it came up in a special time in my life. I was, in 2010, I was 20 years old, and I was a senior in college. I was about ready to start seminary, and there was a preacher that came in to teach to one of my classes. He was a special guest, and he just started, he came in, and he was a 70-year-old man. He'd walked life. He'd been a pastor for over 50 years. And he looked at us in the small little classroom with young preacher boys and wanting to aspire to this, wanting to aspire to ministry. And he said, how old are you guys? And, raised my hand, I'm 20 years old. It's like, 20. He's like, that means that should the Lord tarry and you have good health, he's like, you probably have a good 50 years of ministry in you, just like I did. So I hope that's true. I pray that's true for you, that you have 50 years of godly ministry to give over to the Lord. He's like, but I want you boys to be thinking about something, is what he told us. He said, I've been a preacher now. It's 2010. He's like, I've been a preacher 60 years, since 1960 about. He's like, and as I look from 1960 to 2010, there was a sharp decline in the moral fabric of our nation. He's like, as I look forward into the next 50 years for you young gentlemen, he's like, I see a lot of hardship for you. I see a lot of persecution for you. And he says, if the next 50 years are as bad as the last 50 years, he's like, probably many of you will be in prison one day. I'm not going to lie, that scared me a little bit. That rattled me as a 20-year-old man because I was like, I didn't do this. I didn't go into ministry to get put into prison. Like, I wanted to help people. I want to preach the gospel. I wanted to see lives reformed and transformed by the power of the gospel. Like, if they didn't want to go to prison, I would have been missionary if I wanted to do that. Those are for those guys. Like, I just wanted to help people. Like, but I left that class. And I was like, man, I think he's right. In 2020 now, and then looking back at 2021, I was like, it's even seemed to ramp up since that time. I think we can all agree about that. And I remember going to a place. It was a quiet little place that I often did my devotionals. It was in Virginia, and so it was the Blue Ridge Mountains. You could see from all directions there. It's a quiet little place. Nobody else went, and I just sat down. And I started reading my Bible. And I remember coming across Acts 20:24. And it said, but I do not account my life of any value, nor as precious to myself, if only I may finish my course and complete the ministry that I received from the Lord Jesus to testify to the gospel of God's grace. I looked at that. I looked up at those beautiful mountains and I said, I guess I'm going to jail someday. Because nothing else was going to matter. Nothing else was going to matter to me. If only I finished the course that the Lord Jesus has given me. That is what I wanted to do. That is what I was called to do. That is what you all are called to do. Nothing else matters. Facebook arguments don't matter. Political arguments don't matter. One thing matters, and it's the Lord Jesus Christ and the ministry that He's given us. I started thinking to myself, I was like, but what about I was engaged? I was like, what about my wife? What about my future kids? Like, who's going to take care of them? Like, the God of the universe was going to take care of them. How sinful and prideful was I to think anything else? This was Paul's mission. This was Paul's calling. This is every single one of us calling. We have no different mission than this, to testify of the gospel of grace. Everywhere that Paul went, he told people this. In the city of Ephesus, he said, but I do not account my life of any value, nor as precious to myself, if only I may finish the course and complete the task that the Lord Jesus has given me, the task of testifying to the gospel of God's grace. That's why I told the city at Colossae, don't look at earthly things, look at heavenly things. That's why I told the church in Philippi that now as and always may Christ be magnified in my body, so that whether I live or whether I die, for to die is to gain. to live as Christ. That's why he told that young preacher, who was a preacher in Ephesus, Timothy, he said, I do all for the sake of the elect so that some might find salvation. That's why he told the church in Romans, I don't count these present sufferings as comparing to the weight of glory that is to come. That's why I told the church in Corinthians, don't look at things that are seen, but look at things that are unseen, because the things that are seen are temporal. The things that are unseen are eternal, and they're preparing for us glory. One thing mattered to Paul. One thing. And that was to testify to the gospel of God's grace. What matters to you? What are you spending your life on? Because God might just be using all of this craziness in our world right now, all of this craziness right now, to draw people back to Him. He might have used 2020 as using the start of 2021 to pull you back to Him.